Why don't seagulls fly over bays? Because then they would be bagels. Hello and welcome back to SparkleDart. That was a stupid joke. I hope you enjoyed it though, because I heard it one time on the TV and I'm like, I'm gonna steal that joke and tell it to everybody in the world. And then I told it and then nobody listened and they thought that it was really dumb. And I'm like, did you not get it? Let me explain the joke. And then they're like, you know you can't explain a joke because if you explain the joke, it's not going to be funny anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean? I don't understand your logic. That doesn't make sense to me. And I'm like, okay, let me spell it out for you. If you want to tell somebody a joke, you have to set up their expectations for one thing and then send them in another direction with it. You have to make sure they don't see the punchline coming. And if you explain the joke to them, then they'll know the punchline post-emptively after they hear the joke. And then they'll go back and think about the joke, and then they'll understand how the punchline makes sense in context of the joke. But once they understand it, it doesn't make sense. Well, it's not funny to them, rather, because they've already heard the setup, and now they know the explanation. And once you know how something works, and you're not like if you have no expectations for some sort of humorous bit, then it's not going to be as funny as it could have been. And that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm going to talk about when it comes to explaining jokes. And I'm like, then I tell that very person that I was talking to, that's fantastic, I'm glad you explained it to me. And then they're like, yes, now you understand, and you understand why it was a waste of time for me to explain this to you, because now you are the joke. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then he slapped his forehead and rolled his eyes, and then he walked away. That was funny, right? That thing that I just said? I hope it was funny, because if it wasn't funny, then I need to work on my delivery. That's what it must be. The delivery. It's not that the content is bad, it's that the delivery is bad, right? And that's the explanation that I'm going to go with, because it can't be that what I'm saying is wrong. That's ridiculous. Why would you accuse me of being a wrong boy? I'm not a wrong boy. I'm a right boy, and that means that I am right-handed. Have you ever met a left-handed person? They're very rude. They like to push, because you sit next to them at like a coffee table or something like that, and then they're sitting there trying to like maneuver their left arm into your right arm. It's like, couldn't you just sit on the other side of the table? And then they're like, no, I can't do that, and I refuse to try. And I'm like, well, that's a little selfish, don't you think? And they're like, I don't care, I'm left-handed. And then I'm like, oh goodness, I didn't realize left-handed people were such jerks. Now they tell you that left-handed people are, what's the term? Wicked? Sinful? I think maybe wicked is the term, I'm not exactly certain. But like, my mother was left-handed, and then my grandma was very religious, and she tried to get my mother to stop using her slam, huh? Oh, okay, 80? That's good. Okay. To stop writing with the left hand, because she wanted my mother to get into heaven, and I'm like, if you write with your left hand, you don't get to go into heaven. And then my grandma's like, no, you don't get to go into heaven. Why would you think that? Why would you have to, first of all, you have to sign in. When you meet St. Peter's up at the gate, you have to sign into heaven. And he's got one of those like metal spiral binders, and left-handed people can't write on those, because then their hand would just hit the spiral, and they won't be able to sign in, so they have to go to hell. They've got no choice but to go to hell, and they try to make the spiral arm work for their writing capabilities. And you might be thinking, well, that sounds a little bit preposterous. Why couldn't they just like sign the name on the left-hand side of the notebook? And then I'm like, because he's using a Sharpie, and the Sharpie bleeds through the paper. Or St. Peter's rather said that. He says the Sharpie would bleed through the paper on the other side, and then it would get all muddled up on the other side. You wouldn't be able to see who had been writing on the paper and who had not been writing on that side of the paper, because they would just blend together and they'd be like just a bunch of squiggles. And the squiggles, they don't read well. They bleed together very, very difficult. I mean, I'm sure you've used a Sharpie before. I'm not going to explain to you the mechanisms of how a Sharpie works, because obviously you've used a marker before. If you haven't used a marker before, then you must have no arms, I guess, because that would be the only explanation that I could think of. Now, if you want to maybe explain to me why you haven't used a marker before, I might be kind of interested in hearing that. But if you don't want to explain that to me, then I guess, that's fine too, because it's honestly not really any of my concern. I just want to hear your anecdotes. If you got a good, if you want to make up a hilarious story and tell me, I'll gladly shake my head and listen and be like, that's very interesting. I would like to hear more. If you could please tell me more, I would be very curious to know more about your plights. The plights of the common man like yourself. You seem like a very interesting person, aside from the fact that you've never written before now. And you said you got interested in using pencils because you saw somebody draw. You met Jim Davis, and he explained to you what he did for a living. and you're like, wow, that sounds really cool. I want to be able to do that too. And then you pick up a pencil and start drawing cats, and then you're like, well, how do I make those little squiggles that look like just lines and stuff? Like, you know, the things that go in the bubbles that they put above the characters' heads, how do you make those? And then I'd be like, well, you have to go to school first. And they're like, school? Okay, I guess it all makes sense to me now why I never understood how to make those squiggles that make words and pronunciations and phonemes and monemes and stuff like that. You want to know my favorite word is? It's monosyllabic. Do you know what that means? It means a word that has only one syllable. Like, piss, that's a good example. Or stench, that's another good example. Or feed, that's also another good example. Or cup, that's not a good example because cup has 3 letters. I don't remember the other words that I said, but I bet one of them had 3 letters, so I just made myself look like a jack. That's short for jackass, but it was monosyllabic, so I said it that way. I like to shorten my words, what of it. Like, I like to call ketchup, I like to call that catch. So if I want, 22 different flavors of ketchup, I'd say, hey, give me some catch 22. And then they'd be like, well, I don't have that. And then I'd be like, well, I don't want that much ketchup anyway, but I knew that you couldn't get me that many different varieties of ketchup. So either way, I don't get what I want. It's a catch-22. Wow. I can't believe I made that work. But listen, buddy, I blew my own mind. I hope that's okay with you. I hope it makes sense to you. I hope you understand what I was talking about when I said that. But I don't know. If you've ever gotten your fingerprints taken, you go down to the police station and then they take your fingerprints. They're like, well, would you like to donate to charity? I'm like, well, I'm already paying you to get my fingerprints taken. I wouldn't really want to have to donate more money to charity because I think that's a little bit excessive. You know, I've already donated a lot of money. I go down to the store and they've got those sneakers that you can buy and then write your name on, and then they'll put them up in the window, and they come in like 3 different colors: blue, yellow, and red. And then you can, depending on how much you donate, you get a different color. And then it's like, well, I want people to know that I want to donate money, but I don't want people to know how much. So if you could just give me, like, is there like a white one that doesn't specify any specific amount? And they're like, no, there's not anything like that. You have to tell everybody exactly how much money you donated to charity. And I'm like, but if people know that I could donate $500 to charity, then they know that I just have $500 to spend. And then they'd be all up in my grill. They'd be asking me for handouts. They'd know that I won the lottery or whatever, like in My Name is Earl. They'd be like, he won the lottery and now he's trying to make everything right, but he's not going to give me his money. That's ridiculous. Why wouldn't he give me his money? I'm a cool guy. I have 2 kids and a wife, and I drive a Pontiac. Why wouldn't he want to give me money? And I'll tell you why I don't want to give you money. It's because you didn't do anything to deserve that money. What's wrong with you? Why would you come up to somebody that you've never met before and start begging for money like it's some sort of charity case? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, that's not really the problem. That's not the problem that I have. That's not the biggest problem that I have, I guess I should say. I don't know. I like to have fun, but I don't like to be held accountable. Does that make sense? I don't know. Some people think it does, some people think it doesn't. I don't want to be the guy to tell you that maybe what you're doing is wrong, but if you're going to try to go out and have fun, do things that you shouldn't be doing, maybe causing mischief, graffitiing walls, tagging pictures of your grandma on Facebook, unflattering pictures that you found in your family's scrapbook or something like that, and then putting them on Facebook, and then Graham's like, well, why did you upload that picture of me when I had like cake on my face or whatever, something like that. And I'd be like, well, because it was a funny picture and because I wanted everybody to see it. And then she's like, well, I don't want people to see it. Can you take it down? And they're like, no, it already got 19 likes. I don't want to take it down. I would lose all of those likes. And then she'd tell me, what is a like and why does it matter to you? Why does it matter how many likes you have? I tell her that, listen, Graham, you're from a different generation. You don't understand social validation. You don't understand that people get validation by sharing things on social media, and then everybody else comments on it and says, wow, that's really clever, you're very special, I want to give you $500. And then they do that, and then I am $500 richer, and then I go put that in the bank, and I forget that it's there, and then I go and check out my statements, and it's like, wow, how did I get all this money? This is crazy. How did I get all this money? Oh yeah, I scammed people. I took them for a spin, and then I took their money, and then I go to jail because that's fraud. Why would you commit fraud? I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me why anybody would commit fraud. I'm sorry. I'm just very passionate about things like this. And you might be thinking things like what? I was talking about fingerprints like 4 minutes ago. Why? How dare you distract me? I went down to the police station, and they're like, we got to get your fingerprints taken so that we can run a background check on you, because I know you're applying for like a car loan or something like that, and they want to make sure that you're good on your word. They can check your credit score, but they can't check your criminal history. And if we got like a fingerprint on you, then we can track you anywhere you go. We can watch you like a hawk with police drones or whatever it is that they use these days, Amazon drones, I don't know. I guess that's the quickest way to deliver mail is by drone. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, you would know all about that, SparkleDart, because that's all you do is drone. And I'm like, that's really fucking funny. Keep on talking, see what happens. And then I smack you upside the head, and then you say, ow, I didn't mean to. And then your hat falls forward on your face, and then you have to fix it. And then your glasses fall on the floor, and then I step on them. How do you like that? You made that happen, not me. That was your fault, buddy. I don't apologize for nothing because I'm rude. Sorry, I'm in a bad mood today. I don't know why. It's probably because I stubbed my toe, and then I tore off my toenail. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, if you did that, why aren't you in the hospital? Fuck the hospital. I don't have to explain myself. My therapeutical problems, those are my problems and my problems alone. They're not for you to prod into, not to pry into my life. Buddy, listen, it's not about you, it's about me. And I'm the guy who chooses to take things very seriously. I don't like to joke around. That's all it is I don't like to make jokes at other people's expenses. And clearly you do, so just keep on talking. Let me tell you. That's all it takes is for you to just keep on talking, and then you'll see what happens. I don't profess to be the most knowledgeable in these whole fingerprint criminal background histories, but if you're gonna tell me why you're gonna take my fingerprints and then lie to me about why, you just be like, you got real nice fingerprints, they look pretty, I want to make a shrinky dink of them and then hang it up on my Christmas tree. That's how police officers decorate their Christmas trees, is they take shrinky dinks of people's fingerprints and put them up, and then they also take like pictures of crime scenes and stuff like that, and then put that in the Christmas album, the Christmas card that they send to Gam Gam every year. And then she looks at that and she's like, how could you do this to your poor grandmother? And for some reason she talks like a parrot, like a parrot from Aladdin, some Gilbert Gottfried type situation. I don't know. It made more sense in my head when I said it, and then you'll be thinking to yourself, well, it still doesn't make sense, so if you could try to make it make sense, I would be more appreciative of it. And I'm going to tell you this right now, no, I will not be doing that for you now or ever. So please, thank you for watching SparkleDart. Goodbye.